A Curious Case of People by Luffy Gear 5. Summary. Rampo knows he's intelligent. He also knows that everyone else knows he knows. He's not an arrogant man, just factual and logical. And sometimes it's not always a case that's a challenge to solve. Sometimes it's a certain someone in the agency who doesn't quite do what you'd expect. Rampo was not an arrogant man.
Nor was he egotistic. He was factual and logical. He knew this. He also knew people often viewed him as a stuck-up, self-loving detective that was too good for anyone else. He didn't care. They could think what they wanted. Those cases they gave him were too simple, and he liked a challenge. I mean, why give him a case they could solve themselves? Talk about him being lazy. Anyway, Rampo was logical. He liked the challenge. And there was one challenge that he still hadn't figured out. Even if it had been a year. He was, of course, talking about the one and only unpredictable Atsushi. You thought Dazai, didn't you? Nope. As a matter of fact, Atsushi was, in his very humble and carefully constructed logical opinion, that was probably more fact than opinion, more unpredictable than Dazai. Dazai, while mysterious and hard to read, was obviously going to be unpredictable. Not even Rampo knew what was going on in his head. And he knew a lot more about Dazai than Dazai thought he did. So, him being reliably unpredictable actually made him relatively predictable in some ways. Atsushi, on the other hand, could be read like a book. And yet, he always managed to surprise everyone, even Dazai and Rampo. He was unpredictable in the most unpredictable ways. And no, he wasn't talking about his battle IQ or his detective skills, although he was very observant. Rampo thinks his feline ability helped him with that, alongside his personality. The boy had a way of he didn't really know what it was. Atsushi was odd, let's just say that. And there were two main attributes Rampo couldn't get his head around. One, the kid had a horrendous past, and Rampo didn't think Atsushi remembered half of what happened to him. He also knew his parents abused him worse than what he experienced in the orphanage, but Rampo's mind wasn't creatively dark enough for that. Two, he was intelligent. Rampo knew this because Atsushi wasn't educated well at the orphanage. The kid had taught himself a lot through reading and books. And those two things were just qualities about Atsushi, both indicative of the upbringing Atsushi had. The reason why he was always wary around new people, the way he flinched at loud noises, cringed at silences, ignored pain and hunger like a talent, even suppressed a lot of his emotions and reactions to what happened around him. So why in the ever-living fuck was Atsushi so done with everything around him? The kid would literally see something mildly annoying and look as though the world just needed to stop. He would see Dazai try to commit suicide, not even react, as though it were what the average person did, and deadpan so hard. And Atsushi, despite his sweet, cute, smiley personality, had an extremely bad RBF. His resting bitch face was something to admire. And talking about personality, it wasn't what you'd expect from someone with a past like Atsushi's. He trusted many people too easily. Yes, he was wary, but past that he trusted them with his life. Like, take the agency. They had Dazai, Yoshino, even the president was an ex-assassin. And Atsushi, who had only known hatred and abuse, trusted them, to the point of being reckless enough to entrust them with his life. And that was another thing. He was reckless. He had been abused his whole life, and he was reckless rather than protective of his body. Like, Rampo couldn't put his thoughts into words. The kid was odd. Rampo watched as Atsushi flinched at the door slamming open before sighing when Dazai, late as usual, twirled into the room. Atsushi-kun. What is it, Dazai-san? Can you write up my report for me? Atsushi blinked, eyes falling half shut. He looked so done already, and it wasn't even midday. Can't you do it, Dazai-san? Nope. I have other things to do. The brunette then proceeded to slouch into his chair and hum along to his favorite suicide song. And then Kunikita started shouting as usual. Atsushi turned to his screen, looking at his computer as though it would do something to help him out. It didn't, of course. Rampo recalled when Atsushi first arrived after his entrance exam. Kunikida asked Dazai why he wasn't dead yet. Dazai obviously moaned and waved about dramatically before finally explaining Atsushi had helped him by kicking over the metal can thing he was in. Rampo didn't know what it was called. He didn't need to. That wasn't important. Atsushi kicked it over. No sympathy. And Rampo knew he would have had that fed-up look on his face. Rampo was a logical man, and for now, he was willing to let this challenge go and pick it up at a later date. For now, though, he would have fun. They were at the bar. Rampo didn't know what it was called, but every once in a while, Yoshino would drag everyone in the agency out to a bar and they would all have a nice drink together. Kunikida made sure no one ever got drunk so they could work the next day. Of course, Dazai never listened, but the brunette was understanding enough for that. Plus, Yoshino was the only real drinker among them. A lot of the time, the rest would have a juice or something. Dazai would normally have nothing, probably something to do with tampered drinks. He wanted a suicide after all. But today, Rampo had prepared something special for a certain someone. He'd talked Dazai into helping him too. It wasn't even hard. The man readily agreed. Rampo had brought catnip. He'd already seen Dazai spike Atsushi's drink with the ground up leaves. It was good Atsushi always had a smoothie, so it was thick enough to hide the powder. But of course, Atsushi had a feline ability. He'd smelt it. The kid frowned. "Can you guys smell that?" "What?" Kunikida asked. "If someone farted, it was me," Dazai commented lightly, placing his hands behind his head. Atsushi glanced at him, lips twitching up slightly in amusement before he shook his head. "No, it's not that. It's sweet. Kind of warm smell." "Whatever you're smelling, it smells nice." Junichiro shrugged, testing the air with his own nose. "I can't smell it, though." "Oh." Atsushi frowned and shrugged, taking a large sip of his smoothie. "Don't worry, Dazai." Rampo peeked his eye open at the serious tone. "What did you put in my drink?" Dazai frowned. "Your drink?" He glanced between the drink and Atsushi before reaching for Atsushi's wrist as though to check his pulse. "I never went near it." He was very good. Rampo had to give it to him. He was acting the exact opposite of what Atsushi would expect, and also looking concerned enough that Atsushi would believe it wasn't his doing. At that, Atsushi started to look worried. "You did it? Why does it taste different?" Dazai slumped back, waving dismissively at Kunikida's and Atsushi's concerns. "I wouldn't worry about it, Atsushi-kun. There's been no one close enough to tamper with it, and your drink has been in front of all of us the whole time. Drink up, it's fine." Atsushi looked worried for a moment before nodding slowly and eventually finishing his smoothie. He sighed as he placed the empty glass in the middle of the table. "That was nicer than I remember." Rampo hid his smile. "Anytime soon." He glanced at Dazai, who smirked at him. Phase 1 completed. Phase 2 commence. Dazai stood and stretched dramatically. "Excuse me for a moment. I've got to relieve myself." Kunikida scoffed, mumbling under his breath. Probably finding another way to kill himself. Rampo didn't care. He was watching Atsushi's pupils start to dilate on his bright irises and the deadpan look coming from his face. Dazai was returning and barging into as many drunks as he could, spiking other drinks as he went with other things to make them even more out of it. Dazai returned to them. That was... Oi! Dazai was lifted out of his seat from his collar by a beer-bellied drunk. "You walked into me. You should apologize." Dazai raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry. I think you may have mistaken me for someone else. Maybe my friend here?" Dazai reached over and pulled Atsushi to his feet. "Is this him?" The drunk glanced at Atsushi before frowning. "Might have been. Give him here." Dazai gladly traded places with Atsushi. Kunikida was becoming increasingly tense, but he was clearly relying on the fact Atsushi was a mellow and level-headed person. Rampo smirked. That wasn't the case anymore. The drunk shook Atsushi harshly. "You need to apologize." Atsushi blinked at him slowly, pupils becoming elongated and feline. "For what?" he asked bluntly. The drunk went red in the face. "For walking into me." "That wasn't me." "It was." "You're mistaken." The drunk had seemingly had enough as he drew back his fist and punched Atsushi across the face. Atsushi's head whipped around and the boy stood for a moment before turning back to the man with a side eye. It was careful and predatory. He tapped his tongue to his split lip before the wound and bruise healed over. Without pause, Atsushi drove his fist into the man's gut, who collapsed to the ground with a groan. "Fucking idiot." Rampo's eyes widened in surprise. Nikita looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. Atsushi looked blankly over the other drunk men before stepping over the drunk on the floor, an intentionally clumsy step kicking him in a very sensitive place. Atsushi sighed, looking all at once so done with the world. He lazily beckoned with his fingers. Come on, then. And that was the time Rampo found out something else about Atsushi. He could swear and insult to no end. I bet your mom could throw a better punch than that. Yeah, like that was gonna land. That was fucking pathetic. Are you dead? Oops. Shit, wrong person. Alright, you fuckface piece of shit. Don't try too hard. You'll hurt yourself. Yeah, fuck you too. Sorry, that looked like it might have hurt. Original. Really original. Fuck you. And you. And on he went. By the end of it, Atsushi had beaten all the people in the bar, with only the barman and the agency members being left standing. He looked over the unconscious bodies before walking back over to them, not caring for who or what he stepped on. The agency stared at him in shock. Rampo and Dazai shared a look before smirking at each other. Before anyone could say a word, Atsushi had dropped his head to the table and was fast asleep. Please don't swear, Atsushi-kun. I don't think I'd be able to handle it. Sorry, Kanikita-san. Dazai laughed beside him. You were right, Rampo-san. Rampo smiled. Surprised? Yes, actually. Same. Rampo took out a lollipop. Dazai rose from his chair. Nah, Atsushi-kun. Fuck off. No thanks. Dazai smirked. Atsushi! Kanikita shouted. Sorry, Atsushi mumbled. Rampo popped the sweet in his mouth. He was a logical man. He liked a challenge. But there was one challenge that he still hadn't figured. He was, of course, talking about the one and only, unpredictable Nakajima Atsushi.